Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, I want to cover the Letecia Stauch murder trial that is happening and starting today. The jury selection has occurred today, and so they are officially moving forward. No change of plans with that. So I want to dive into this story and I want to let you know, what do they have on her, the mystery surrounding the disappearance, and then when he is later found murdered. The story of Gannon Stauch. Rest in peace, Gannon. Sorry. Here we go. The 11-year-old Colorado Springs boy whose disappearance in January of 2020 drew national attention before his body was found in Florida was shot and stabbed, allegedly by his own stepmother, while his father was away on a work trip. And so I want to dive into, what do we know about this case? Because little Gannon Stauch deserves justice. So it's been more than 3 years after the little young boy disappeared in the Pikes Peak region. His stepmother is now standing trial for his death. And now that jury selection has begun, I want to share with you, what do we know around this case. On January 27, 2020, at 6:55 p.m., El Paso County Sheriff's Office dispatched they receive a call of a runaway child at the 6600 block of Mandan Drive in the Larson Ranch neighborhood. About 40 minutes later, at 7:32 p.m., Gannon Stauch entered into state and national databases as an active runaway, last seen between 3 and 4 p.m. on the 27th. Nothing was found in the initial search. Then on January 28th, 2020, the case was turned over to the El Paso Sheriff's Office investigators. And detectives, they conduct interviews, collect surveillance, follow up on any additional leads, and the investigation continues. And then the case is upgraded from a runaway child to an endangered missing child on January 30th of 2020. The case is upgraded as the El Paso Sheriff's Office requests resources from the FBI Crimes Abduction because they were looking for any help to help find this little boy. Now, Letecia Stauch, she speaks exclusively to 11 News because she was maintaining her innocence at that time. She has nothing to do with it. She has nothing to hide. And then on February 3rd, 2020, a neighbor comes forward with home surveillance video showing a driver and passenger getting into a truck the day that Gannon went missing, and only one person returning hours later. And the 4th Judicial District Attorney, Dan May, he is even seen at the Stauch's home on February 5th of 2020. And so the search for Gannon, it moves into Douglas County. And then Douglas County, they suspend the search for a little while, and the Sheriff's Office says there remains the potential for search efforts to start up at any time. And then Letecia Stauch is arrested in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She's reportedly even said to have attacked a deputy and was held in a Kansas jail. That was according to her source. On March 5th, 2020, Letecia arrives in Colorado Springs for a video advisement hearing. And then on March 11th, she appears in El Paso County courtroom and she is formally charged in Gannon's death. On March 20th, authorities announced that they believe they found Gannon's remains in Florida and filed new charges against Letecia, upgrading those charges. And arrest papers in murder case would later be leaked, and the paralegal from the Brighton City Attorney's Office was charged with a misdemeanor for allegedly leaking the Letecia Stauch arrest affidavit. And attorneys for Letecia, they filed motion to allow to bond out of jail, but no, that was not happening. And then 11 News, they obtained the second arrest warrant affidavit revealing that Letecia allegedly concocted a plot to escape from jail, including measuring herself to see whether she'd fit through the window and obtaining a broom to break the glass. More charges are filed against Letecia. And then on January 19th of 2021, a second of two mental health evaluations find that Letecia is competent to stand trial. And so the judge agrees to let Letecia defend herself a month later. March 5th, Letecia represents herself in court for the first time. And Letecia, her jail library privileges were revoked after she reportedly refused twice to use her allotted times. And so she was said to be causing problems behind bars. And then on May 3rd, 2021, the court announces through release of documents that Letecia will no longer be representing herself. She will get a new public defender. And then the judge rules that there is sufficient evidence against Letecia for the case to move forward to trial. And then February 11, 2022, Letecia changes her plea from not guilty to not guilty by reason of insanity. Then the case is delayed so Letecia can be evaluated at the state hospital in Pueblo. And then in July that same year, after months of being told more time for an evaluation was needed, the judge warns the defense that they had 4 more weeks to get it done, or the state hospital would be required to explain the delay. Then the judge holds a hearing to discuss results of the competency test, and the results were not read publicly, but 11 News crew in the courtroom heard the word sane used in reference to the evaluation, and then the defense asked for second evaluation and request its own experts. And then September 16th, the judge grants a second evaluation. Letecia arrives to the hearing an hour late, prompting the judge to rule that all force reasonably necessary can be used to make sure she leaves the jail on time on court days. And then October 13th, 2022, a trial date is set, which is now starting today. And so that's where the jury selection begins in the Letecia Stauch trial. And so the opening statements begin in the disappearance and murder of the little Gannon boy. So only 11 years old, disappears in January of 2020. And then of course, he would be later found in Florida, done in the worst way. And Letecia Stauch was the last person to see him alive, and authorities believe that she killed Gannon Stauch in his bedroom while the two were home alone that afternoon. His body was found March 17th, 2020, under a bridge near Pensacola, Florida, wrapped in bedding and inside a suitcase. He had been shot in the jaw, stabbed in the chest and back, and suffered a skull fracture. He also had cuts on his arms and hands that appear to be defensive wounds. Sergeant Jason Yoder with the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office in Florida testified during the preliminary hearing. Gannon's body appeared to have been in the suitcase for some time, Sergeant Jason Yoder testified in the preliminary hearing. Authorities found a bullet in his skull and 2 bullets in a pillow that was with him in the suitcase, Sergeant Yoder shared. Letecia Stauch, she said that she last saw Gannon on January 27 at some point between 3 and 4 p.m. at their Lorson Ranch home off of Mandan Drive near Colorado Springs. And Stauch said Gannon left to go to a friend's house and never returned home. She isn't sure which friend Gannon wanted to see. And none of the boy's friends saw him that day, and that according to Gannon's father, Al Stauch. Although Gannon was initially listed as a runaway by the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, spokesperson Sergeant Deborah Mina, something like that, said his status quickly changed to endangered and missing due to his age, the weather conditions, and his medical needs. Authorities, they cannot confirm that Gannon left home by himself. But Sergeant Deborah, she said that if they thought Gannon had been abducted, they would have already released that information to the public. No one in the neighborhood spotted Gannon leaving his home on the afternoon of January 27th. At least no one that has publicly reported it. Gannon missed school that day as well. None of his classmates saw him. Stauch is aware that she is the centerpiece of all of this and all the rumors, and she knew from the get-go she was the main person that they were looking at. But at that time, she maintained that she's worried about Gannon and has no idea where he could be, even to this day. She was saying at that time, something is not right. I'm so mad. They have spent all this time and haven't found him. Why? Because they are chasing me. Referring to the cops. You see, the neighbor, Roderick Drayton, he provided home security footage to Fox 31 Denver that showed Gannon leaving home with his stepmother in a red Nissan Frontier truck at around 10:20 a.m. And Drayton, he reportedly said the security footage was from that exact day, January 27th. Now, Letecia Stauch, she returned home in the truck the same day at around 2:20 p.m., Drayton said. He added that Letecia Stauch returned home alone without Gannon. Stauch denied the allegations. Now, law enforcement, they do believe that Drayton may have been mistaken about her returning without him, that they do believe that he was in a vehicle, and after that is when she did the unthinkable to him in his bedroom. Another security footage clip aired on Fox 31 Denver showed the red truck parked on the curb in front of the Stauch house. A boy who appeared to be Gannon exited the truck wearing a backpack, and the neighbor told Fox 31 that something was not right with Gannon, adding that the boy looked drugged and sluggish as he walked to the truck on January 27th. Drayton said, "I saw him come out of the house, get into the truck. Something's not right." She came back, locked her truck. Nobody got out of the truck. And the Nissan Frontier, that is the one that the husband would drive the most. Now, Letecia Stauch, she said that she drove her husband's truck on January 27th as a way to cut down on mileage on her own vehicle. So she rented a car. Now, her vehicle, she explained that her car was leased and she would have to pay a fee or have to buy the car outright if she went over certain miles each month. She also says she needed the room in the back of the truck to bring used sports equipment to Play It Again Sports, which is a sporting goods store that buys and sells new and used sporting goods. And Stauch, she said that she planned to shop for hockey equipment for Gannon since it was the only sport he had shown any interest in. And they later went to Castle Rock to find a new bicycle for Al Stauch, who was out of town working. That's what she was sharing. That was her in the interviews. Those were part of her lies, but she admitted that she left her phone at home on January 27, but said she had an Apple smartwatch on the entire time, which can easily track her whereabouts. And then she explained that her whereabouts may seem confusing because she took the back roads that morning because there had been a wreck. She said at one point she got lost and had to turn around. She also said she took exit 163 off of Highway 105, but she didn't remember the exact time. And when she was asked why Gannon missed school, she went out shopping on the same day. She said that he stayed out of school mostly because he was embarrassed that he might have an accident in class since he was dealing with bouts of both constipation and diarrhea. So this was part of her lies that she was feeding the police. She even concocted like 5 different stories about what could have happened to little Gannon. She said that she even returned home and Gannon seemed to be feeling okay before he left for a friend's house. He went down to his room in the basement area afterwards, and which would be verified that she too was around the basement at the same time, because Crime Online obtained a copy of Stauch's ADT home alarm report, and it showed activity in the basement and living at the same time at around 3 p.m. And Stauch, she said that she and Gannon were the only ones home at the time, aside from their dogs who was outside in the backyard. And she even added that her 9-year-old stepdaughter arrived home from school at around 3:15 and did not see Gannon. Now she has a 17-year-old daughter through a different marriage, and the daughter arrived home from work at around 4:38. Now the daughter is said to have also been investigated as to see if she had anything to do with this incident. And so she reportedly arrived home from work around 4:38 and minutes later left with a 9-year-old to go to a Dollar General store. She too did not see Gannon, according to Letecia Stauch. And so, you know, at that time, investigators, they were doing everything they can to find where little Gannon can be. You know, now Gannon's stepmother, she admits that the boy was under her care when he disappeared. She said she last saw Gannon at some point between 3 and 4 before he went to a friend's house, but she didn't know what friends. And so that was odd that she would just let him go without asking, where are you going? And so that added more doubt to her story. You see, she had a rental car, which made no sense why she would have a rental car, because in the end, this rental car, she only put 70 miles on it. Again, she didn't want to use her original vehicle because she was afraid it would go over in the lease mileage. But here she is, she only put like 70 miles in this rental vehicle, which is not a lot of miles. And she claimed that the majority of the accusations that were coming about her were from people who do not have the facts of the case. And so, but she is not disputing that she rented a car, and that, you know, Stauch says she didn't rent the car until Tuesday, the following day after Gannon mysteriously disappeared. And she said she picked up her husband at the Colorado Springs airport. Both left the airport in the rental car. And she said that the plan was to look for Gannon in a car he would not recognize. And she added that they didn't know if Gannon would hide from his family's car, thinking he was in trouble. You hear the kind of stories that she was feeding people, the investigators? And so it made no sense. You see, she rented a car from Budget Rental, and the receipt and confirmation number indicated a white Kia Rio sedan was rented from the Colorado Springs airport at 8:50 a.m. on January 28th, 2020, under Letecia Stauch's name. The car was returned the following day at 1:20 p.m. You see, according to El Paso County Sheriff's Office spokesperson, Gannon was initially listed as a runaway. And that's what was called in. At the time the call was made, the reporting party stated that he was a runaway. He did not return from a friend's home, and so it was typed as a runaway case. And so that's why at the original time, that's what it was. And before you know it, within days of Gannon's disappearance, an El Paso County crime scene team arrived at his home to collect evidence. They returned several times and were spotted removing items from the residence and carrying items inside the residence. And Stauch claimed her husband told her about blood that was found in the home. She denied hurting Gannon and claimed that he would get repetitive nosebleeds that required frequent cleanups. And so Stauch said Gannon also cut his foot in the garage a few days before he vanished. She said there are tools, wood, and woodworking in the garage, jointers and saws. If there was blood in the garage, it was from doing activities. And Al Stauch, the dad, he allegedly called his wife and asked her why a saucer-sized puddle of blood was found inside Gannon's room. And that's what Tisha had shared. She said he was taken around and shown different places of blood inside the house. There was some in the garage, but there are accidents all the time, nosebleeds. Gannon walked around sometimes with blood on his arm from nosebleeds. Stauch added that her husband told her that Gannon's sock and a bloody 2x4 board were found in the woods near Douglas County. And she explained that her family frequently loaded up boards they didn't need from their garage into the pickup truck, leftovers from her husband's woodworking hobby. She claimed that there had been several accidents in the garage which could have easily accounted for a bloodied board. When asked how the board would have ended up in the woods, she said that things had flown out of the back of the truck before while she was driving. She said the same thing could have happened to the board or Gannon's sock. Now, when questioned whether law enforcement specifically told her about the wood or a sock, she said, law enforcement have not said one word to me, have not called me. Now, this is when she was doing an interview with online, Court Online, or I forget what it's called, Crime Online, Crime Online, I believe it is. And so, but her story just started crumbling more and more as she was going on. And you can even see from the evidence the likely blood stains on Gannon's mattress. And so this was also seized and contains a red stain consistent with blood in the same area as stain on the carpet and the blood cast. So it did not look good for her at all. The stains on the mattress were swabbed, but were not tested with Blue Star. Who knows by now, but and then you can see trace evidence swabs of suspected blood were obtained from the electrical socket next to Gannon's bed. This is as horrible as it can be, and we just want justice for this little boy, taken from this world way too soon. And let's be real, she obviously, I'm sure, you know, everyone gets their day in court, but it is not looking good. And so, you know, at the time she was arrested in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And she said that she left for South Carolina after getting death threats in Colorado Springs, where Gannon vanished from. Now, remember, he vanished from Colorado Springs, Colorado. She's arrested in South Carolina, but his body was found in Florida, which does not help her case at all. And so little by little, they're looking and they're wanting to get some justice, but then more comes out about her. Everyone is looking for the little boy, But then when the police go through her phone, they find some very suspicious searching. This here, pictured on the screen, is the neighbor who turned over his video surveillance. Great job knowing that. Let me go check that day and see if I see anything. And so she does some search queries. I'm going to share just some. She does a bunch. I'm not sharing all of them. And she does some search queries that are very odd for a married woman. Okay? She did one, find real military singles. Okay? So like she wanted to be with a military guy because her husband at that time was a military guy. I believe he was away on something along the lines of military work. And she did another search. Parenting should be 4 people, not 1. So like if she was getting tired of being a parent, and she even typed, I'm doing all the work for my stepkids and their mom doesn't help. Another search, I wonder if my husband's wife is sending me a card since I raise her kids. She even wrote, why should my husband choose me over family? Like she was not happy in her marriage is what I'm getting from these searches. One day, some people will wish they treated you differently. No, if you are proven guilty, and with everything that you've been doing since, I don't think anyone's going to be wishing that. She even types, find me a rich guy who wants me to take care of his kids. And so if you look at this, it's obviously that she was unhappily married to Mr. Al Stauch and had some problems, some degree of, some resentment toward the family as a step parent. At least that's what the affidavit is also sharing. And in the affidavit, furthermore, days before Gannon's murder, Letecia appeared to be researching a move to another state to a 2-bedroom apartment. Now, and she even said, I was the sole caregiver at the time of his disappearance and death. Gannon lived with Stauch and his father at the time of his death. Al Stauch, he was on a work trip with the U.S. National Guards in Oklahoma when his son vanished. And his alibi has checked out. He has nothing at all to do with the disappearance and death of his little one. And Gannon's biological mother, Landon Hia, she was in South Carolina as well. So I don't know if they knew each other or how this South Carolina comes into play, but his body was found months later under a bridge in Pace, Florida. And you can see the different conversations that she shared. She had additional conversations with her husband and provided 4 additional versions of Gannon's disappearance. When El Paso Sheriff's Office came to the house on January 27, 2020, the abductor was still in her residence and that she tried to signal to EPSO deputies that there was somebody in the residence. It should be noted that when the deputies checked the entirety of the house and no additional person was located during that search. That was one story. Another story was that she was RAPED by Quincy Brown at her residence and Brown abducted Gannon. And she knew his identity because she saw a paper in his ID card fall out of his pocket that had his name on it. She sent a photograph of Quincy Brown to Mr. Stauch through text. Now, Quincy is said to have a history. You can do Quincy Brown true crime and look him up. So it's like, but she sent a photograph of him to Mr. Stauch through text message. It is noted this photograph mirrored images online wherein Quincy Brown was listed as a most wanted suspect. Now, another story, Quincy Brown follows her from Petco and at some point was laying in the middle of the road in front of her car When Letecia stopped to avoid running the man over, he jumped into her car, made her take him home, then raped her. You see the stories that she was telling her husband? Letecia and Gannon, this is story number 4, were near County Line Road, Highway 105 in northern El Paso. Gannon was riding a bicycle in that area and fell off, hit his head, and was then abducted by Quincy Brown. In this version of events, Quincy was driven by a man named Terrence. That's what she was lying left and right. My friends, let's be real. It does not look good for her at all. But the bottom line is, this little boy, Gannon Stauch, deserves justice. Justice for little Gannon. My friends, at the end of the day, I'm glad law enforcement did not buy her stories, kept digging, because a little boy was taken from this world way too soon. Rest in peace, Gannon. Rest in peace. My friends, if this is the type of content you like to follow, hit that subscribe button, and then you can follow my content. And if you did get some value from this, hit on that like button right there, as you can see, and then that tells YouTube you got some value. Show it to more people. At the end of the day, this is not about me. This is about being a voice for the victims. This is about keeping you updated on what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. My friends, be safe, be careful, be alert, be aware. Until next time, peace. Have a great day.